Okay, let's see. Are we live? I can't tell, to be honest. Let me go back, see what's going on here. Oh, okay. I guess we are because my technical director says Facebook is up. It's not coming up on my screen, so I'm going to go with it. Hi everybody, it's Thursday evening. Let me know when you're here. Not sure why I can't see it on one screen, but that's okay because I can see it on the other one. So we're gonna go with that. Oh good, I can get a thumbs up. Let me know I do not see a chat. And you know, last time that was a problem. So let's see. If you're here, let me know. Nope, I do not. Darn it all. I don't see anything, so I don't know if anybody's here from YouTube or not. Give me just a minute. You know how this goes. Hold on. Okay. Give me just a second, everybody, and let's let me figure this out. And I remember last week I had to, what did I click? And then it showed something. Give me just a second. Every week it's something new. Stick with me because we're going to have fun tonight. Well, if I can't see a chat, then I can't really go live. So,
well, didn't you pull up the interfaces the other night?
Hold on, everybody. Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out how I did it. I am not sure. If you're on YouTube, let me know and let's see if something comes up. I don't know why. Every week this gives me a problem lately.
Oh, it's up in the background, isn't it?
What do you mean, up in the background?
Tabs up there. Tabs up there.
Well, because I did that.
Click on the live.
Oh, and once again, it didn't change the title. So.
But there's people text.
Yes, I can see a chat now because I pulled up YouTube myself. So somehow the streaming software is not making me happy lately. But I'm on YouTube watching the chat. It didn't change my titles again. This video this time is backgrounds basic to bougie, and this is part 2. We're gonna do pastes tonight with ink sprays, I think. So I'll just stay here. If you're on Facebook, if you'd head over to my Everyday Expressions YouTube channel, that would be fantastic. And that's the only way I'm going to be able to see your chat.
I can pull up Facebook chat.
Yeah, but they can go to, I'd rather have you at YouTube anyway. So give me just a second to make sure. There we go. I've got the live chat up. Okay, I see Diana. Are you the last one? Hi, Laura. We always have fun. Hi, Sandy Scott. There we go. And Donna and Laura. Okay. Oh, my husband says I got to put my face back on. There we go. Okay, we're going to go with this. Hi, Lisa. I'm going to get over being frustrated right now with this streaming software. We're going to take a breath. Let me take a drink and then we're going to get started, okay? Okay. So last week, if you missed it, go back and watch it. And I'm going to fix these titles again. We started with very basic. We started with a stencil and we did some ink blending, and then we made it even a little bit fancier than just one ink color, and we added a couple more, right? With our Catherine Pooler inks. We just blended it through the stencil. Pretty cool, but very basic. Then we did some ink blending with this one, and this one's pretty cool too, but really it's still kind of basic with the techniques that we used, right? It just looks a little bit more difficult than it was. We again ink blended, and then we just ink blended some more ink on it and added a little bit of water and distressed it and did all that fun stuff. I accidentally oversprayed, and so this one isn't perfect anymore. I need to redo it. But that's what happens when you use a water reactive ink, right? So same colors, and we just took it up one little notch, but still, believe it or not, a very basic background. And then we die cut it with that really cool postage die that we used. So that's what we did last week. And we all really liked this one, I think. So hi, Tracy, how are you? And so that's what we did last week. So this week, we're going to take it one step further. And this is kind of a mixed media, or even, you don't have to be a mixed media person, but we're going to talk about pastes tonight. And obviously we normally use pastes on a background, so it's kind of perfect for this series. So before we got started about an hour ago, I did some samples. So the magic of live, I actually have some already done, but I'm going to use them and show you, and then lo and behold, we'll pull up the dried sample and then we'll add some ink to it, okay? Ooh, there you see the texture. So we're going to talk about pastes. I love pastes because if you know me, although most of my cards are very kind of traditional and florals and, you know, the basic kinds of things, deep down in my heart, I kind of love mixed media. I'm not a fan of the throw everything on it and it's supposed to be a piece of artwork for your home kind of thing. I don't like those, because I might do it because it's fun just to play with all the things, but then I look at it and I'm like, this is not a piece of art I want in my house, and I never know what to do with it. So that's my personal opinion. I do love all the gears and all the metal things and all of the techniques, but I'm just not a fan of doing it like the artwork. So I like the kind of mixed media that is still pretty and that we can use on our cards and things like that. So talking about pastes tonight, and there are a lot of things. I even took notes because I'm going to give you a lot of information. Okay. So here's what we're using. Tonight, we're going to focus on Ranger pastes because there are so many different pastes out there and glazes and things like that. And we're going to talk about some of my favorites from Tim Holtz and Ranger, okay? I have been using these for years. And the most important thing you need to know about pastes is you need to know their properties, because you need to know how it's going to react with different kinds of inks on different papers and the effect that you're going to get from them. And the only way you can learn that is obviously watching other videos. And I learned a lot of this by watching Tim Holtz, but also by just experimenting on your own and really figuring out how it works and not expecting to get a perfect product the first time you experiment with them, okay? But you need to know what you're going to get after you've played with them. You'll know going forward and how to use it and how it works and things like that. So basically, Ranger produces all of these, okay? So these are the two that I started out with from Ranger. Texture Paste Transparent Gloss. Obviously, it'll be glossy when it dries, and it will be clear, okay? And it's just called their Texture Paste. This is Texture Paste Opaque Matte. It's going to be solid white, and it'll be a matte effect, okay, when it dries. Both from Ranger. Then we're going to move on to Tim Holtz Distress line, all produced by Ranger still. Okay. So my number one favorite effect is crackle. And I don't know if you used to, like a few years ago, Tim Holt had the, you kind of painted on, it was like a clear and you painted it on, you had to wait forever for it to dry and then it crackled. And really cool effects, almost like you could get like a crackled glass effect. Well, now in the Distress line, we have crackle paste opaque. Obviously, it's going to be opaque, like white. And then we have crackle paste translucent. Okay, so they're both going to crackle, but one's going to be clear and one's going to be opaque. And then we've got grit paste translucent, so it's going to have some grit to it, but it's going to dry mostly clear. Okay, and then finally, this one is texture paste matte. So this one will probably be very similar to the regular Ranger texture paste opaque matte. Okay, both produced by Ranger. I would guess we're going to get the same effect. Okay, but what's going to be interesting is in comparing all of these is how they take on ink, because some are going to resist ink, some are going to take on ink, and then we're going to have the crackle effect, and then we're going to have the grit effect, right? So it's going to be really interesting. Bonnie and I go live every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So, and now that we're back in the new year, I'm pretty much back on schedule. Okay. So all these pastes are by Ranger, and that's what we are going to talk about. We're going to also probably the next in the series, we'll be talking about stencil butters and paper glitz and glaze from Picket Fence Studios. I don't have all of the different ones from Picket Fence Studios because they have like so many different lines now in their pastes and glazes and glitz and things like that. But we'll be moving on and trying some other companies' different kinds of pastes. Okay, but tonight we're going to use the Rangers. So one thing I want to tell you also is that the Rangers are I think they're all water-based. So it's a water cleanup. And you need to know that when you start using things, because you need to know how to clean it up and what's going to work best. I find with some things, alcohol works best, or just plain water, and you need to get it in water very quickly. But all of these are water-based, and they clean up very easily with water, just water, or even a little bit of dish soap in there. And so I actually have, let's see. Hi, everybody. Right back here, I have just a like baking pan with water, warm water. I like hot water, you know, it works just a little bit better, and dish soap in it. And it's already really mucked up because I already made all my samples earlier, but it's right there. I can throw these in, and then I will tell you, I pulled them all out, took them under the sink, sprayed them off, and everything was already pretty much off, and then dry them off. So it worked perfectly. Something else you need to know, let's do this, is you can either work on your Tim Holtz glass mat, or I just have this silicone mat from scrapbook.com. Okay. And this is nice because I don't know if you can see it, but like all my stuff is on here, and it just cleans up really easily, and it does kind of hold the stencil down. So I'm going to put it right over my Tim Holtz glass mat, and we'll be ready to work. Okay. So let's see what I want to start with. Let's start with texture paste matte and texture paste Ranger opaque matte. Okay, I am going to use Strathmore Bristol Smooth Mixed Media cardstock paper. Y'all know I love to use Bristol Smooth for a lot of mixed media and water techniques. You can also use watercolor paper, and we kind of talked about papers more last week, so go back and watch that video if you weren't here. watercolor paper will absorb ink a little bit differently than the Bristol Strathmore Smooth. I think watercolor paper absorbs it a little bit more quickly, and the Bristol, it kind of sits on top just a little bit more. You're going to get a little bit of a different effect when you add your inks, but as far as the pastes, maybe it changes how quickly it dries. Right now, because we have the heat on in our house and the air's pretty dry because we have gas heat, the pastes dry very, very quickly. So dry time is also, you need to know dry time, okay? But like I said, I did all my samples about an hour ago, and I think they're all dry already, no big deal. So let's start with the opaque matte, and let me find all of my samples so I know exactly which stencil I used. And I did label the back. Here's floss. Okay, so this one I've already done, and this is the Ranger Texture Paste Opaque Matte, okay? And you can really see a lot of the texture kind of this way when I do it. So I use this one. And by the way, my supplies list, I will get posted. I tried to post it, but it didn't save it. So I'll get it on there. And I think all these stencils are listed, or some of my favorite places to buy stencils are on there, okay? Plus the pastes and everything else. So we're going to use this one, and we're going to use the Texture Paste Opaque Matte. And I'll be honest, I don't even think I made a sample with this one because these are going to be very similar. I don't know that if they're exactly the same, and I apologize, I kind of missed this one in my stack. But you will see that when I closed it up, I used some, what do they call this, press and seal, and I opened another bottle that I had put this jar that I had put this on. Probably, I don't know when the last time was that I used a lot of this. It was maybe dried out just a tiny bit, but not, I mean, it's still usable, and maybe I'll add a little bit of water and it'll be good. But I didn't open this one, didn't even realize I had this one, but we're going to use this one, okay? So this is the Ranger Opaque Matte. Love this one. I use it a lot. When I use a paste, I like this one. So let's get this open. And you're going to see this one is more like the true, it's creamy, and it's more like spackle, but it looks kind of like paste when you open it up, like a true like glue paste, but it's kind of like, what did I just say? Like grout, not really grout because it doesn't have grit in it. What am I thinking of? I just said it. Spackle, right? So I love to use a metal palette knife, and I see a Hagrid hair. Somehow that chocolate lab hair gets everywhere. And I'm not going to tape these down. I know some people tape them down. They get all stressed out about taping it down. Just hold it though, because the other thing is, it will kind of come up and you don't want to mess up your pattern, but it's okay. We're going to hold it down. I don't want to take the time to tape it tonight. And some people would make sure that it's perfectly straight and all that. I'm not really worried about it because we're demoing tonight. Okay. So now here's something else you need to know. Because this is water reactive, if you have any ink on your stencil, it is going to pick that up, which is fine. It might color your paste a little bit also, but I also wouldn't want to put, if it picks up any color, I would not want to put it back in my jar. I will put paste back in a jar if I have not overworked it. If I've worked it a lot and I've dried it out a lot, I don't want to put it back in there, okay? And this stencil looks dirty, but I have cleaned it. So, I'm not going to worry about it. And I try to go pretty, I don't know, smooth strokes, because the paste sticks quite a bit and it's going to pull your stencil up as you pick up your knife. So I go off the stencil and kind of squish it at the end to pick it up. And then here's the other thing, because there's so much body to this paste, like it has a lot of body. It holds, I don't know if you can see it, See these where I've squished it and you've got lines in it? I like that. Some people use a scraper and they have a perfect even coat from top to bottom. I personally like the peaks and kind of thicker areas and less thick areas and those lines and things in it for dimension. And I'm going to go for this one. I'm going from top to bottom, side to side. I'm getting every little bit. Okay. And some places are thicker. Some places I've really scraped against the stencil. And now this one, I didn't work it too much. I would go ahead and scrape it because I also knew it wasn't going to pick up any color because my stencil was clean. And close it up right away. You don't want it to sit in the air any longer than you have to. Okay. Then back it back up. And I'm going to very carefully pick up an edge. And I'm kind of peeling it back so that my piece of paper doesn't go with it. Okay. I'm going to put it right in the water. And then I don't have to worry about it. And I just push it down to make sure it goes in. And now we won't worry about the rest of the evening. And I'm going to get a baby wipe. To clean off my palette knife and clean off my silicone mat. So that was the Ranger opaque matte texture paste. Okay. So clean off your knife and then I'll use that to pick it up. Now, this has so much dimension. Sometimes you'll get some on the sides. I either use my fingers or my palette knife to kind of scrape the sides and clean it off. And you can look at how pretty that is. All that dimension on that one. So we're going to set this aside to dry. And I've already got one. But we're going to clean this off too. I want you to see my cleanup here. Setting this aside. You'll see how this is water reactive. I just have my water spritz and I'm spraying it. And I don't know if you can see, but it's already getting milky, kind of the water. So it's water reactive, I know right away. If I didn't already know that, oh, Donna says she lost a crafty friend. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that, Donna. She was only 61. Yes, everybody say a prayer. I'm very sorry to hear that. Sorry for your loss. So everybody say a prayer for Donna and her friend and her friend's family. Okay, so this has gotten kind of milky. It's water reactive, so I can just take a baby wipe or something, and I'm using a silicone mat, and it just, look how easily that cleans up. And then I'll just use a little lint-free towel to dry it. No big deal, okay? And it cleans up super easy, and I love that. You don't need alcohol. You don't need anything else like that. And that is the Ranger Opaque Matte. Now, I want to show you one other thing. And I know Tim Holtz is using these, and I have these on my supplies list. These are these big rubber bands. And I see Tim using these now. And so I had a bunch of pastes that I went through the other day, and they had dried out. And so I thought, okay, I need to try something else. But I will tell you, like I said, anything that I've ever put the press and seal on and then closed it up, most of the time is still good when I go to use it. So just make sure this is covering the seam. But I will tell you, since I have all new pastes, I will go back afterwards and I will put press and seal also, because, you know, more is more. And we want to, when we've made an investment in our products, we want to make sure that they stay usable for as long as we can. So, but I did get these big rubber bands because Tim's using them, but I'm going to do double duty and put press and seal too. And when I'll show you how I put it on here later on, but that's how I did that one. So now here is the dried texture paste opaque matte. Now, something else that you need to know that's important. And like I said, Tim is the master. He demos all this stuff. Go back into his YouTubes. You can watch all of it. But something else that's nice to know is the paste flexible? can you work your paper and then dry it with a heat gun and then get it to bend back into place without all of your crackle or your paste flaking off? Because it will do that. Some pastes will. It is not flexible, and you need to know that. If it's flexible, you can do all kinds of different other things to it, and it's not going to peel off of your paper. So look, I'm like doing a lot to this, and I can tell you so far, it might crack. Sometimes it will crack, but it is not, I haven't even seen it. I don't see it cracking yet. And I have not had any flake off. So that's good to know. Also, you'll want to experiment, because that's another thing to know. If it's flexible, most of the time you could put a die on this and run it through your die machine. But there are others that when you run it through, it's going to crack and break up and come off of your background. So you need to know that also before you put all that work in, and then it doesn't do what you want when it's time to possibly die cut it. But right now I'm doing all this and I don't see it doing anything. So that's good to know. I can't guarantee it, but that's what I'm finding. Okay. So here's the one. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see this big peak right here? That, and it's a little bit thicker here. And that's because I left some of those edges sticking up a little bit more. See, can you see it there? So play with that. This one really over here has a lot, some peaks and some valleys. And over here, I love that. If you don't like that, make it really smooth. Okay. So let's now move this and let's add some ink to this and see how the texture paste takes ink. And I'm going to use some of my Ranger Distress inks. Let's see what we've got. Let me pull some. I pulled some pretty Valentine's colors, then I pulled some blues and turquoises and things like that. Let's do some Salvage Patina, Chipped Sapphire, and Vintage Photo. You can't really go wrong with this color combo. It's a good kind of vintage basic thing. And I tend to start with the lighter color. Okay. And spray stains, you don't really need to shake. I just kind of automatically do it out of habit. And I want to make sure, because last week we had overspray, that I move everything out of the way. And maybe I'll even cover it with some paper towels. Okay. Just to soak anything up. So I've got my spray stain. You could add a little bit of water first, or you can spray directly onto your paper. And remember, this is the Bristol Strathmore Bristol Smooth. And I also have my water bottle here close by to add some water if we need it. And remember, we're not going to stress about what we get. You get what you get, and you can't throw a fit. And we're going to see how the paste reacts with the spray stains. Okay. Let's add some Vintage Photo now. That's pretty. I like that. Okay. Now I am going to add some water. I got quite a bit of brown because I hadn't sprayed it in a while and it was kind of sticking when I sprayed. Okay. So let's pick it up a little bit. Let it move around. And I'm going to, let's tap it just a little bit, get some of that moving. And let it flow. I kind of like the organic flow look. So let it move back and forth. If you have any questions, I don't see any questions right now. If you have any questions, let me know. The chat kind of stopped. It's funny because I always know you're paying attention when the chat kind of stops. Or everybody left. But normally that's not the case. Thank you, Laura. And we're going to dab up some of these spots that get kind of grungy. Okay. We got brown kind of just going right down the middle. So let's see if we can get something, maybe just a little bit over here. Just a little bit in there. I might tap it just a little bit. And let's move it. Remember that more water is your friend. It'll get it flowing. Okay. And then we'll wipe this. It gets really messy. If you're someone that doesn't like your hands to get inky, then this is probably not for you. Okay. Let's dry it just a little bit. And then let's talk about what we see. We're not really worried about the colors and everything going on in the back and like the colors tonight. It's more about the pastes and how they look and how they're going to perform, what they're going to do when you add ink and water and things like that, right? And this is the Tim Holtz glass mat. I need to put it on the supplies list. I really like to use water, you know, like inks and my spray stains and stuff on the glass mat because it's so easy to clean up. And then I can heat it. The heat tool does not hurt it either. I don't like to use my sticky mat or my paper inking palette because, you know, you shouldn't put heat on it. So I'm drying it. And it doesn't have to be all the way dry, right? And what if I did just a little bit of spritzing now? I'm doing a little half squirts to get the bigger water droplets. And I'm going to let it sit there a second. And I'm getting some paper towels. Let it sit. I might even dry it a second with the water droplets on there to get a little bit more water reaction. And now I'm going to lift it. Yes, Laura, you can use your heat gun on this glass mat for sure. And in all honesty, I think almost all glass mats. This is the only one I have. So I know a lot of people have them. So they might be able to tell you for sure. But I know I can heat this one, and I'm pretty sure most of them you can. A little bit more water. And we'll pick it up again. Okay. And we'll dry this. This one might be a little bit grungy for some of you, and in all honesty, it kind of is for me too. I would have liked to have had some more white space. And I would have liked to have had that light blue. One way that you can help that is to go in layers. And remember, wet on dry layers and wet on wet blends. So because we sprayed all the wet inks together, they blended. If we had layered it and started with like the light blue and then did our darker blue and then the browns, we could have been more targeted and specific about where it went. Okay. So the most important thing is we're looking at the paste. So what do you see? What do you notice? This is the Ranger Texture Paste Opaque Matte. What did it do when we sprayed the ink on it? Anybody? There, I have a little bit of a delay, so it takes a second. what happens is that, oh, they're still talking about their math. So I'm going to answer. This is my teacher moment. You know, I was waiting for the class to answer, but because we're on a delay, we're going to go ahead. The opaque matte texture paste picks up the ink. It takes on, not completely, because you can still see the dimension, but the opaque texture paste will take on some of the color. It does not resist it. It actually soaks in some of it. It takes on, but you can still see. Isn't that dimension really cool? Really pretty. Now remember, you could also go in and ink blend like with your brushes to be a little bit more targeted and specific on the edge. And we can always go back and do that. But I want to get through some of these other ones because we're already 30 minutes in. So that's the opaque texture paste. I love that texture paste takes on the ink. So let's go ahead, and while we're on this one, let's do the crackle paste opaque from Distress, and let's see how it reacts with the with ink also. So we're going to set this one aside, and let's see. Let me pull my sample. Ooh, this one's good. Okay, let's create one together. And then we'll look at the one that I did that's dry. Because every paste also has a little bit, it goes on a little bit differently. Okay. And I want you to see that. So another piece of Strathmore Bristol Smooth. And this one's this really cool stencil. I like this one. Remember that one we used last week from TCW? Here's another TCW stencil. Really cool kind of mixed media one. I like this one a lot. So just like we liked that one with the butterflies last week. So let's get this on here. Look, it's got almost some script and some scrollies and some more script. And like this little rosette like thing, like Baroque scrolls. Really cool, right? Let's use this one. I like this a lot. I like these that have a lot of different elements on it. And I think TCW does these mixed media stencils. I just love Jamie's style the best for sure. Okay. So this is TCW Crafters Workshop. And let's look at the opaque, crackle paste opaque. I know, Laura, I love it too. Okay, look at the difference already. It's glossy, and honestly, like it looks like almost like a really thick glue, or just white gesso, if you know what I mean, like a real thick, heavy-bodied white gesso or paint. And so it looks different than the opaque texture paste looked. So, and look how easily, like it easily scoops up. Okay. So, and once again, it's water reactive. It's going to take on color if your stencil has any color on it. So, make sure your stencil's clean and don't put it, if it picks up some color, don't put it back in the jar. And this one, I'm going to go ahead from top to bottom. I'm going to cover the whole thing. I'll be honest, if I'm doing mixed media, you won't often see me cover the entire background using the whole stencil. I like to leave spots and, you know, make it look like it missed some places. I like that look. But when you have a stencil like this that has so many different elements that are very different, I will probably cover the whole back because I like that look. Now, crackle paste takes a little bit of time normally to dry. I'm assuming this dries pretty quickly, but I don't want it to be real thick. So I don't leave a lot of peaks and valleys and thickness and things like that. See how easily it went back in? It's not dry, so I'm going to put it back in there. And I'll put a rubber band on this and some press and seal also. Okay, so I'm going to peel this up very carefully. See how my paper kind of pulled up? So that's why you peel it carefully. And then I'm putting it in the water. Make sure it goes, tap it down. And this is pretty cool because you can see it's shiny. But remember, this is the opaque. So I'm assuming it's going to dry. And once again, I clean the edges off if I need to. But all of these are A2 size. So either I'm going to cover the whole back or I'm probably going to cut it down in some way. So it's glossy, but look, it really held its texture on there. Some glazes and mediums will kind of get, oh shoot, good thing I already have one done because I just dropped it, right? Okay, look, it's got more texture. Woo! Sometimes the edges will round a little bit. And some will hold their body a little bit more. And this one really held the body. It really held the shape. So I'm going to put this one over here and clean this off. And once again, I'm going to spray it with water. So you see it's getting milky. We know that that's water reactive, right? So I'm going to clean off my palette knife, dip it in the water a little bit because it does get sticky. Just clean it with some water or, you know, something. You can also use your knife to scrape it up a little bit if you need to, if it starts to dry, but it's fine. So water cleans it up just fine. If it's a water-based paste, and the Ranger and Distress clean up very easily with water. Okay, so let's get the one now that is finished. Here it is. Don't know if you can see it, but it's all dry and it is crackly. Okay, and I'm bending it. Is it flexible? Yes. I was kind of worried it might chip off because of that crackle, but that's the property of it, right? So looks okay. Doesn't look like it's flaking off. So we're okay right now. Hi, Jennifer. I know, still a good save. I didn't smear it, right? Thank goodness. Okay, so let's look at this one now. Are you ready? Let's use some pinks and maybe even some lavender in spray stains. I'm going to show you the layering and see if we like it a little bit better and not get so much overlapping, okay? The blending of the light, the wet and wet. So we're going to do wet on dry techniques. This is Kitsch Flamingo, one of my favorites, okay? And we've got that done. Let's dry it. I'm not even going to add any water to it because I kind of like that speckliness. The other thing you need to be careful is, can the paste take heat? That's another property you need to be aware of. Will it take the heat and it won't bubble up? A lot of acrylic paints will bubble up. And is it going to resist the ink? Let's dab it and see what happens. This was the opaque, wasn't it? So I'm guessing it might soak up the ink. When I dried it, it actually dried. It looks like it's sitting on top a little bit. And look, can you see these speckles? That it didn't really soak in. I don't know. We'll see. Let's keep drying a little bit more. We don't have to have it all the way dry, right? Now remember, I have a silicone mat. Normally silicone you can dry onto or heat also a little bit, and it's usually okay. Because you know, there's like silicone baking mats and stuff. I'm gonna dab a little bit here. And now let's do a little bit of picked raspberry. I also got festive berries, so we can do I love Valentine's Day crafts. And I haven't done any yet. Okay, picked raspberry. I always spray a little bit off to the side if I think about it because it's been a while. Oh, I love picked raspberry. There we go. See how that works? Wet on dry layers. I'm going to add just a little bit of water. Let's get it to move just a little bit. Okay. You can always use a paintbrush to move it around just a little bit. I kind of like the organic, kind of just spraying it with water and tapping. Okay, let's dry it. You can dab some spots like this. See how that cleaned it up just a little bit? If you get some of these spots you don't totally love, just dab it where the water pools. Now, let's think about this. Let's add some shaded lilac and see how it goes, okay? Off to the side. Then, oh, that gets a lot of, it's not like spreading that much. That's okay. And let's add some water, just a little bit. Get it to move. Dab these spots. Let's dry this one. I know, isn't the pink so pretty? And I love that little bit of lavender in there. That really kind of takes it to another level. I think we're also going to do a video one night. You guys know I talk about color theory a lot, and sometimes people have a hard time knowing picking colors. And we've talked about that before, but I think we need a whole kind of video on color theory. So we're going to do that. That's on my mind to do also. Now I want to go back in with a little bit of pink. But what we're most worried about here is how the crackle, ooh, that looks really pretty, don't you think? Is how the crackle took on color. How it dries, how it takes on color. This one is really pretty. I'm really loving this one. What do you think? Bonnie says she got a new travel glass mat. I take my Tim Holtz to all of my crops and retreats and things. I really use it a lot when I travel. It's a good size. You just have to be careful, especially when you're packing it for the plane. Okay, this isn't totally dry, but I want to now add just a little bit of water, half squirts to get some bigger drops. Let that sit for a second. You want to have time to react with the ink. Don't just try to dab it up right away. Let it, if you want that speckled effect, then you got to let it react with the water-based ink. And of course the distress line is made for that, right? I know. Hi, Cindy. Isn't that such a pretty combo? Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. I love pink, dark pink, and lavender. I love mint green and lavender and pink. I think that's a really pretty combo at Valentine's. A little bit non-traditional. Now remember, if we used watercolor paper, the ink would react just a little bit differently. Like, I'm not getting specific speckles. It is lifting ink, but look in that top left corner. I'm not getting the, like, you know, a perfect splatter. Okay. This is the Crackle Paste Opaque, the Distress. I love Crackle. I think Crackle is my favorite paste. And I am so glad that we don't have to use that kind of Crackle paint that Tim used to have. I'm glad he has this. Okay, let's get this up here so you can. Here's the other thing. When you use Crackle, lots of times, let me show you, it's better to use, let me see, like a bigger kind of stencil, because then you can really see the crackle, right? Or even this one would have been really pretty. Sometimes when it's really detailed, you don't get the crackle effect quite as much. So this is opaque. So here, if you can see it, it's white. It's going to stay mainly white. It doesn't totally absorb the color as much as the opaque paste did. See it? But you get the crackle effect. And the more you kind of bend your paper, the more crackly it's going to get. And you can't rush it. Let it dry until it cracks on its own. Okay, look how pretty that is. So it will take some of the color. The Crackle Opaque does. And isn't that one pretty? I love that. Hi, Sue. How are you? She's late, but she's here. Yes, I do love mint and pink at Christmas. Isn't that's a cool stencil though, and I'm digging that Crackle paste. Okay, let's see what we've got next. Let's see, and we might move this along, but we used opaque matte and we used Crackle. Now let's use, I've got Crackle Paste Translucent and Transparent Gloss Texture Paste from Ranger. Okay, let me see what we've got over here. I've got Crackle Translucent and here's Transparent Gloss. Okay. I think this is mostly dry. Not 100%. Let me give it, I'm off screen because I don't want you to see it yet. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of heat. Speed this drying. And you can, you know, you got to be careful because some of it, like I said, will bubble up. It won't like the heat. You got to know what it's going to do. But I'm going to hit it from behind and kind of get that paper warm underneath and behind it. And that'll help dry it also. Okay, without hitting it from the front. Oh, there was a spot that I don't know. I think it was a little bit thicker. It's not that it melted it. It was just a little bit thicker. I'm not letting the heat sit anywhere because I don't want to risk, I don't know if it would, but I don't want to risk it bubbling. Okay. We're going to do Strathmore Bristol Smooth. And let's look at this Transparent Gloss Texture Paste. I know, Sue, these are the best, right? I'm good. Thank you. You're good? Okay, look, it's got that glossy, kind of creamy look to it again. Very easy to dig into. It looks very much like the Crackle. Okay, so we don't need too much. And what stencil did I use? I used this one, this pretty one from Creative Worship Stamps. Okay, I like this one a lot. Now, something else to think of when we're stenciling is, remember, you could ink your paper first. You know, it's like there's so many different things we could do. And then you're not going to have the white leaves, right? If we had inked our paper first, then our leaves would be colored. Because a transparent gloss is going to resist the ink. I know I gave it away already, right? It's going to resist it, and you're going to have that glossy finish. So these leaves are going to be white when it dries. And once again, I'm going to gently peel it up, kind of like that, so that my paper doesn't pull. Put it in the water. Tap it down so it goes down. And then that way my palette knife gets wet. And I'm kind of speeding this along so we can get through them. Okay. And now, once again, I kind of like that it kept its body, but it's very glossy. And you'll find that the translucent, we're going to see the other one in a minute. I'm going to do the edges. When it dries, the edges actually do round a little bit. They don't keep their stiff kind of body the way that a paste does. The translucent gloss rounds on the edges when it dries. Okay, let me show you. So there's that one. And let's set this aside. And what did I do with the other one? Let me clean this up. I have it closed up. Let's clean it with water. And I don't know if you can see it. See, we had ink on our silicone mat. It is picking up the ink because it is water reactive, and we used a water-based ink. So these will react. So that's the other thing to think of. If we had used a water-based ink, and then put a paste or this gloss, transparent gloss over it, it would have picked up color. And you have to know how that's going to work too. But you also have to know that if we had used something like a pigment ink or an oil-based kind of pigment ink like VersaFine Clair, I don't know that you could use the paste over it. If we had created a background and used an archival ink, I think we could put the paste over it. Okay, whole other thing. Like, you'd have to see how that goes. Like, this series could go on and on and on, right? Now, what did I do? Here it is. Okay, here is the one that I did. Can you tell that there was ink on my stencil? But it's kind of pretty because then it picked it up on the edges, right? Now, can you see? I'm trying to see. It's glossy because the name said it was going to be, right? There you go. Glossy. And I don't know if you can see how the edges rounded just a little bit on there. Okay. But that's really pretty, right? Just a very soft effect. And that was just because there was ink left on that stencil. So once again, if we bend it, is it flexible? Yes. Is it cracking? Not that I can see. And I'm assuming we could die cut it. I haven't tried it lately. Okay. So let's put some inks on this. So let's do some blues, and let's do some peacock feathers and salvage patina, and let's see. I wish I had some green also. I thought I had peacock feathers. Let me see what I've got over here. Hold on. Get some cracked pistachio. So I've got salvage patina, cracked pistachio, very light shades of these, right? Salvage patina. And let's do it on our glass mat. Still kind of dirty, but that's okay. And let me cover up the other things we've got now too. Okay, are we ready? Okay, there is the salvage patina. Really pretty. Let's see what happens when we move it around. Add just a little bit of water. Okay. Let's dab a little bit up. Isn't that so pretty? I love salvage patina. Kitsch flamingo, salvage patina, those that came a little bit later, some of my favorites. Look how pretty that is. And look what's happening. It's resisting. It's resisting the ink. So the gloss resists it. And let's dry it. Now, I'm not hitting the gloss too much with the heat because I don't want it to bubble. I don't know that it would, but I don't want to take the chance right now. I've not really tested that theory. It doesn't have to be totally dry. And then, can you see the ink on the gloss? I bet, yep, it's going to pick up from there. See that? It is a resist. So it's just going to go on the paper. It's pretty, right? I know, I love this color too. Now let's do some cracked pistachio. I like cracked pistachio too. Really pretty green, soft green color. Remember, if you wanted to, you could use a paintbrush to really get it to kind of move a little bit more where you wanted to, but I'm just not messing with it tonight because we're more talking about the paste. And then okay, dab, 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 the bigger blobs. Look how pretty this is. Really, really pretty. What do you think? Is anybody learning anything? Any questions? Is this helpful tonight? Who else loves paste? Isn't that pretty, Sue? I love it too. Now, I will tell you, I smell a little bit. I think the heat, you got to be really careful. I think the transparent, I want to make sure I call it the right thing. The gloss, the paste, does not overly like too much heat. So I'm going to tell you right now, be careful. Okay. It might even kind of melt it a little bit. So be careful. And sometimes, you know, if you add heat to something that's glossy and it gets too hot, it'll kind of burn it and then you lose the pretty glossiness. So very careful with the heat. Okay. Really careful with it. Let's go back in with just a little bit of the blue right here. And add just a little bit more. And I will tell you with stains, you don't add too much water because it will really dilute the color and you'll lose some of the pretty vibrancy of it. So I try to be a little bit careful, except for the dark colors. Now, the light colors are, I guess, what I mean to say, because the dark colors, sometimes they need a little bit of diluting because they can be really, really bright. So you see, when I dab it, it pulls the color off of the gloss. And when the ink is totally dry, I could take a dry cloth or paper towel and buff it off, and all the color is going to come off of the gloss. Okay. So we're going to, who said cake? Did someone say cake? Even though the temperature in Ohio is frigid. I know, it's so cold. It's been cold here. I am not a fan of the cold anymore. Unless I'm skiing, I don't want it cold. Okay, so we're going to set this aside. I'm not going to do anything else because I wanted you to see how it resisted. Isn't that pretty? We're going to let it dry and then maybe we'll come back to it and buff it off. Let's sit this one over here. And now let's go to we need to do the crackled translucent paste, right? This one's really cool. I have to say, it caught me off guard when I pulled it up because it doesn't look like anything is much there. It dried almost flat. There is almost no body to that. So good to know. And you can barely see it right there. It is crackly, but it is, I mean, it is flat. There's almost no body to it. Okay, so I'm bending it, and it feels, if your paper feels a little bit cold, lots of times that means that your paste is still wet and not 100% dry. This felt just a little bit cold, but for the most part, I'm feeling it and it feels pretty dry. So that's another way to tell, you know, if you're like this one that I can hardly see, if it's totally dry or not. And I'm going to hit it on the back with some heat. But that's a good tip. If it feels kind of cold to the touch, it may still be a little bit wet, not 100% dry. Okay. Now let's spray some inks on here and see what happens. Okay, let's clean this off. Now I didn't use the stencil. I didn't show it to you. I'll open it up, but we're going to move things along. We're already over an hour. This is the Crackle Paste Translucent. It's a new jar. Just opened it tonight. Looks very much like the other one. Looks very much like a heavy-bodied glue. Glossy, creamy, and kind of will go on and look like the other things that we've used. The other glossy things, the ones that looked glossy in the jar. Okay, let's spray this and see what happens. Okay, let's get crazy and let's spray this one with a little bit of spray stain, and then we'll hit it with some oxides so you see how oxides work. I will be really honest. I like oxides, but they have a time and a place, and I don't like the spray oxides as much as the stains, but I like to layer them. But I am not a huge fan. It depends on what I'm doing, but I'm not a huge fan of using all oxides. I like to spray with stains because it's a little bit more vibrant color and more translucent. And you know, the oxides are more chalky and a little bit more opaque. So I like them to lay over some of the sprays. So let's see what we've got. Let's use, let me see, what do I want to do? Let's even pull some Villainous Potion. Let's do some kitsch. Let's do some kitsch. And we're going to speed this along. Ooh, doesn't that, I tell you, that kitsch is so pretty. And you see how I normally tend to prefer the wet on dry because I can get it exactly where I want it, and it's not too much of a muddy kind of mess. Let's do some, this is wet. I'm not doing wet and dry because I'm trying to move it along. So that is the Shaded Lilac. And do we dare add a little bit of Villainous Potion? This is going to be crazy. Okay, ready? See that? See how deep that color is? Let's keep it over here for right now. See? Be very careful. It's not going to take a whole lot, right? Look at that. Now let's add some water to it. And if I grabbed it, see that? Much better. I'll show you with a paintbrush how you can move it around. Okay? I'm going to get this paintbrush wet because who knows what I used it for last, right? I better even test it to make sure. Oh, look at that. Oh, there's probably Villainous Potion on there. I can move it around and get it to kind of go where I want it to. And we can dilute it. Look. It doesn't hurt anything to dilute it a little bit. And we can add just a little bit more. Do we dare add some in the middle? We might not like it, but guess what? We could start over if we wanted to, right? This is what you need to do. You need to play. And see, that was better once it diluted, okay? And then use your paper towels to dab up any of these kind of blobbies. And you can dab this that's a little bit darker. And look, it's like an eraser. It picks it up, right? When it pulls along the edges, dab that up. And let's dry it just a little bit. Let's clean this up because it's a mess. Laura says she's not a fan of the oxide sprays. I think, you know, I like the effect, but I just don't like it covering the whole thing. I think here's the other thing I've found, and Tim will say this also. Don't forget that once you use your sprays, it is 100% okay once it dries to go back in with, let's say, your oxide ink pads, or if you've used your oxide sprays, go back in with your distress inks and ink up where you want to add a little bit more brighter color. It totally changes it and it brightens it up. Don't forget that you can do that. It's a process, right? Now, you see we had a lot of water and it diluted it a lot. It kind of looks washed out a little bit, which is okay. And we could go in and add more if we had time. I would probably do some splatters here and stuff too, but we're more looking at what the pastes do, right? You have to, I like the sprays, but you have to be comfortable with what you get. You can't be overly controlling or think you're going to get one thing, because pretty much most of the time you're going to get something else, right? Okay. So here's what we've got. This is the transparent crackle. You see how it kind of stayed white underneath it. The color went in between, but it did take on some of the color. Now, once it's totally dry, let's try something. I'm going to take my kind of lint-free cloth, and if I went, I'm wondering how much ink would rub off. Really, nothing. So it will go, the ink, what's happening is I think it's resisting the ink, but it's going inside the cracks and soaking into the paper. Can you see it? So it's mostly staying white underneath, but then the ink is going through the cracks. So it's somewhat of a resist, somewhat. And it's allowing some ink to go in, okay? Okay, let's see what else we haven't done. I'm going to set this one aside. And, oh, those are ones that we had done already. Let me see. I know I've got one more. This one, is that stencil we used last week that we love with the butterflies. That's on my supplies list. I found it. And you can even get it in a 12 by 12, which is really cool if you're into that, like making your own art for home and stuff. So it has lots of body. It's dry, it's held up, and it's really, like right here, it's thicker. It held that grunge. And I want to show you, this is the grit paste. Let me find it. This is the opaque. Nope. Wrong one. Grit paste translucent, I think. Although it looks more, oh, let's look at the back. Yep, this is the translucent, but I will tell you, it almost looks a little bit opaque. It's pretty thick. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens, okay? That is the grit paste translucent. And I'll open it up, and I'm not even going to show you in the stencil, because let's just get this inked up. Look at that. Really thick. And I told you this one I had the press and seal on, but it's still, I think it's dried out just a tiny bit, but I totally used it. It worked just fine. I'll show you. Look, it's thick. This is much thicker than, totally workable. It is not dried out. I like to use the press and seal with it. I'll push it down. I don't want a lot of air bubbles in there. That'll dry it out. So I'm going to move this back around, get it kind of flat. And I would put the press and seal down and kind of push it down. But you see it's very thick, has a lot of body, and you can see the grit in there. Okay. So I used it through the stencil. I liked to leave it with lots of peaks and valleys. And let's use some spray stains and then a little bit of oxides, okay? And I even pulled out, let's see if it bends. Looks like it bends. Looks like it's flexible. So we haven't had any flake off, have we? We'll run one through the dye machine. You can see how that works. But I haven't had any kind of chip or flake off. So let's see. What colors should we use? Let's do, I have festive berries. I don't know. Do we want to go back to some blues and greens? Let's do some salvage patina. And we'll add a little bit of maybe, did I get a brighter blue? Let's see. Let me get a little bit brighter blue, like prize ribbon, because Uncharted Mariner can be really, really dark. Okay, that is salvage patina. This is really bright, prize ribbon. Okay, so be careful with it. Just a little bit of water. And notice I'm not trying to get my water on the, not too much on the salvage patina. But I like how it flows. This is the grit paste, translucent. And I don't want the colors to blend too much. So I'm going to get this paper towel and dab up the really dark blue spots. See that? That helped a lot. Dab some off there. That really helps a lot if you don't like the really dark color, okay? Even after it's dry, you can add a little bit of water and it's going to react again. That's just the property of distress, right? That's really pretty. I love that combo. Let's add some cracked pistachio. See, I love playing with the stains. How about that? That looks pretty. And we'll dab a little bit up. And let's dry it just a little bit. Oh, yes, Cindy, there is a, I have another one that's a grit paste, and I think it's called Snow something or other. Let me see. I didn't even pull that one out because, you know, we got to stop somewhere, right? Snowfall, and I think there's even a sparkle one. Oh, look, I haven't even opened it. Big shock. But I thought of that too when I saw that in there. Okay, so look how pretty these colors are. Let's add in an oxide just so you see how it works. And then I also pulled out some spritz. So many things to play with, right? But I like this one a lot. I love blues and greens together. The darker blue, the lighter blue. And look at that cool stencil. Love it. Let's pull an oxide now. What have I got? I have salvage patina. Not doing Uncharted Mariner now. Let's do some of the salvage patina. Now remember, oxides have a sediment that'll settle. So I shake it like this. I try not to shake it up and down, side to side, so it doesn't come out the top. Got to hear the little metal marble in there, or the little marble. Get it moving. Yes, Sue, you could definitely, the blues and the greens, a yellow would be a perfect one to mix in because it'll mix well. Obviously, blue and yellow make green. Yellow would be good. That would have been a good one to add in. And do it a little bit of this to get it moving. Okay, and let's see how the salvage patina works. I'm going to try to go just a little bit. see if you can see where it goes on there. See where I sprayed it, and we'll see if you can tell the difference. You might not even really be able to see it, right? And remember, it's still a water-based product, so it is going to the ink is going to react with it. But remember, wet on dry layers, especially with the Distress, and wet on wet blends. But that chalkiness of the oxide is going to soften some of those other colors. And it's like, you know, if it's not your thing, that's fine. So I'm going to dry it a little bit. I'm going to hit it with some water, because we can't forget our cool water techniques. Let it sit for a second. I know, Sue. You know what? I never think of that, and I'm not like, I should have another. You can even take another piece and put it over it to get that effect. I just never think to do that because, you know, amateur, I guess, right? I just never think to do it. Okay. Let's pull that up and dry it a little bit. And then we might even need a little bit more water. And then we'll see what happens here. I like this background a lot. And I do think it's kind of cool that you can see a little bit through the oxide spray. It definitely softened the blue a lot. I would probably get some things out and do some more splatters. That would be cool. Oxides are good for splattering because it's going to be that little opaque color. And let's do a little bit more water. And maybe I'll splatter so you can see it. Might as well, right? Let it sit for just a second. You can hit it with the heat. Sometimes if you hit it with a little bit of heat, it will react a little bit more or a little bit faster. I do too, Bonnie. I think it's really pretty. It's very soft. It could be masculine or for a female. It kind of goes both ways, right? Let's see if I don't even know if I have an oxide in prize ribbon. What is that? Prize ribbon? I don't know that I have an oxide in there. Oh, I do. Look at that. Let's do a little bit of splatter and see how it looks. Might as well. Yes, black splatter. I don't know if I would. Black splatters would be good, but it might really, you know, take it to a crazy level that I don't know. I don't know. I really like these blues and greens. Okay. I'm going to take the little sprayer out, and I'm just going to do some splatters here. I could have taken a paintbrush, right? I could even add more water to that too if I didn't like that, right? Make those move just a little bit. And that's the oxide. Right? Now, in all honesty, I probably would have liked it if I'd used the paintbrush because I wouldn't have gotten the line of spots here and there. A paintbrush that we tapped, we would have gotten a little bit, probably more of the spattery kind of look. Remember, you can dab it while it's wet and it's going to soften it. Okay. And if you didn't like that, go back in with the oxide spray and it's going to soften that, right? So yes, let's talk about the dimensions. Cindy's pulling us back on track. Look, this is the grit paste and this was the translucent. So it didn't, it resists mostly, soaks up, it looks like it soaked up some places it resisted more and some places it took on the color a little bit more. I don't like these lines, you know, this is the thing, you keep going and sometimes you muck it up, but if we add more water, we can get those to move. Look. And then I want to show you one more thing. So look, now I can dab it and maybe I haven't totally ruined it. We could keep going and we could fix it and take it back to really being pretty. But I think you know, I got to tell you, I don't know that I've used that grit paste much and I'm digging this too, Cindy. Like, look at that dimension. Look how pretty that is. I like this paste a lot. I like this paste a lot. Really, really pretty. This kind of looks like some colors in my new paper collection I'm designing for the Nashville Craft Retreat for this summer. We're going to do some watercoloring. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to do some watercoloring at the retreat this summer. We have, I think, Andrea and I were talking yesterday, and I have to tell you, I'm really excited about our lineup of teachers. I don't know if you saw the other day that Zoe Collins I invited her to join the teaching team and she has graciously accepted. She was a guest last year, so she totally knows what she's getting into. And you have to go follow her, Snail Mail for Zoe, on Instagram and on Facebook. And I love Zoe's work. And guess what she does really? I mean, she does everything really well. But one of my favorite things is her mixed media. So Zoe, ooh, who else loves this one the best? Me. I don't know about y'all, but me, this one's my favorite. First of all, we all love the stencil, we decided, right? But this grit paste is pretty fantastic. I always thought I loved Crackle best, but I have to tell you, I think I like this grit paste best. Isn't that cool? So Zoe is teaching a mixed media class. And then we've got Kelly Taylor, who y'all know is just great all around too, but very well known for her Copic coloring. She is designing the Honeybee Stamps set. So she will be teaching that class and then also teaching the advanced coloring class at the Card Cafe. And then we've got a paper crafter, someone who leans more towards scrapbooking normally, but paper crafter Natalie Dill. She is on a Cherry on Top's design team. She is teaching a class and it will be different than any other class we've ever done. And so I have to tell you, like, I love the variety of teacher kind of expertise that we have this year for the Nashville Craft Retreat. And Andrea and I both agreed yesterday the best variety of techniques and teacher kinds of styles for classes than I think we've ever had before. I really, I'm excited. So we're going to do watercoloring. We're going to do mixed media. And I'm not going to give you any more hints right now, but check this out. I'm loving that one. This one is my favorite. Everybody vote on your favorite. This was the Distress Grit Paste Translucent. Now I'd like to see what grit paste, is there a grit paste opaque? I bet. I'd like to see how that one looks too. But I think this is so good. This one might be my favorite. Might be my very favorite. And we didn't die cut any tonight. I'll die cut some off screen because we're already an hour and a half in. What do y'all think? I have to tell you, we do still have a few seats left for the Nashville Craft Retreat. I know I've had some people who didn't think that they could come, and they were so fearful of missing out that now they're coming back to register because they just decided that they could work it out, and they saw everything that we've been talking about, and they didn't want to miss anything. And I love that, because I'm telling you, remember, we have vendors this year, and I've added a Bible journaling workshop afterwards if you're interested in that. And the crop space is totally full. But I will tell you, I'm working on a crop with some workshops for the fall also. So stay tuned for that. But the Nashville Craft Retreat, let's focus on that. We have a few seats left, and it's going to be good. I tell you, the classes this year, I'm excited about the instructors. I'm excited about the classes and the techniques and the sponsors and just everything going on. Love this one. Let's look at everything we've done. Let's move this stuff out of the way and let's wrap this up. So tonight we talked about backgrounds, specifically pastes, and we did sprays. Oh, one thing we didn't spray before we go. Wait a minute. Let's spray some. Oh man, what have we got up there? Let's spray some. I don't want picked raspberries. What do I want? Let's do. Oh no, I already have it open. Look, I pulled out some distress spritz. Before we go, I know we've been on here forever. Once again, the mica's in the bottom, so get that marble moving. And I want to show you how pretty distress spritz is. I know, Bonnie, the 12 by 12 is fantastic. I think I have the 12 by 12 also, maybe not. There we go. Can you hear? I don't know if you can hear the marbles finally moving, and you can see the mica getting mixed up in the spritz. It takes it a little bit. You got to be patient, get it moving. And once again, let's cover this up. I'm just going to put it right there. If you haven't seen the distress spritz, it's pretty awesome. You can get this moving just a little bit more. Okay. Look. It's transparent. You probably couldn't even see it, but it's got mica in it, so it adds a little bit of that pink color, but it also leaves the color underneath. And when it dries, you have that pretty mica sheen. So pretty. I really dig the distress spritz. Didn't think I needed them. Then I saw it, a demo in person when I went to Scrappy Shack's retreat in August. And Melanie said, oh, you need to see these, because I'm like, I don't need them. And she said, oh, yes, you do. And so I did. So I only have one set. I haven't bought any others yet. But let me see. I want to show you if you can see this on here. This is really cool. That's the distress spritz. Look, it looks the same, doesn't it? Wait till I show you when the light's on it. In person, it's stunning. Ooh, I did not screw this one up, Bonnie. Wait till you see it. It's so pretty. Now I want all the other spritzes because I forgot how much I loved it. So here we go. We kind of bougied up, right? We're still a little bit basic because pastes aren't a big deal. So we kind of took what we learned last week, just some ink blending, right, with our stencils. A little bit this week we use sprays. We haven't done anything, crazy, but you got to know how all the different pastes work. And then we use the sprays to see whether they soaked up the ink or whether they resisted it, and then how the crackle worked, right? How much body they had when they dried. Trying to think. We talked about the paper. What else did we talk about? Let me make sure. The only thing we didn't really get to is how it runs through the die cut machine. We talked about heating it, dry time, Is it reactive? Yep. And then the only other thing we didn't do was ink first and then do some paste over it. Wait a minute. Ready? Can you see it? Look. Oh, I don't know if you can really look. Can you see that mica on there? That shimmer. And then look, it gave it kind of a little bit of a, I don't even know what's a dappled effect almost. When the mica goes on, can you see it? Look. So now we've got paste, and then we had ink, and then we sprayed the Distress Shimmer Spritz. Okay, I'm going to buy all the rest now because they're fantastic. I don't, in person, I just, like, I don't, let's see if I can get it so you can look. Can you see that? It's so pretty. I'll add those to the supplies list too. Oh my word. I love it. Seriously, if you haven't seen these in person, you have to. Look, I think we might have to demo these at the Card Cafe at the Nashville Craft Retreat. And I know Melanie will have them to sell. She's distressed Tim Holtz, like that's her thing in her store. This is beautiful. Seriously, it's beautiful. Okay, everybody, let's pull out what we did because we were busy. We've been on for a long time. I never go an hour and a half, but that tells you how much I love paste. And I'm having so much fun. Let me know if you like this series. Oh, look, this is dry. Let's talk about this real fast. Let's get, let's see. Oh, look, it's wiping right off. I don't even need to get anything on the, I was going to put a little bit of water on my, just lightly dampen it, but I didn't need to. See, because it resisted it. It was pretty, right? If we sprayed some spritz on here, it'd be even prettier. Let's do that because I can't stop. We'll talk about other pastes and glazes next week. We're going to do some peacock feathers on this one. I got to open it. So we're going to talk about like TCW stencil butters, Picket Fence Studios. I hope that I have the ones. Maybe I'll need to have Nicole send me some other samples and we can take a look at some of the other glitz and glaze and stuff that I haven't used from Picket Fence Studios because she's got so many in her line now. We could probably have a whole show just on Nicole's, what she's got. Okay. Let's do this. Let's get this mixed up. And then I promise we're going to be done, but I can't stop. Oh, I love paste. Pastes are like, even Zoe said, oh, I love paste. We might need to do those for the mixed media class. And I said, absolutely. I think that is a great idea. We're going to set this aside so I don't muck it up. And got to get this mica moving. This is the peacock feathers. I don't know what other colors I have up here. Let's see if I have any other blues. Nope, I don't. So I don't want to spray any of these other ones. But basically you can spray a lot of different colors and it's still translucent. So it will take on some, you know, you'll see the other colors underneath it and it just adds a little sheen of that color. Okay, ready? Get it moving. Oh, now that added quite a bit of, now I didn't think that peacock feathers was going to, see, this is how you have to know what it's going to do, right? Because that changed the look back here a lot. I'm going to dab a little bit up. And remember, it's going to resist it. I thought it would be a little bit lighter. We're going to dry it. Don't freak out yet. Don't get mad at me. I didn't ruin it. Hi, Diana. Remember, it's just paper. If we mess it up, we could go do it again, right? Let me dry it a little bit. We need one of the lighter blues is what it would have looked better if I'd had like a light blue shimmer spritz. I don't have one. So if I had this one to do over again, like I'm thinking, what's one of the light blues that Tim has? Okay, I'm dabbing it, and now it's still speckled my thing. Wait a minute. I'm gonna take a baby wipe and let's see what happens. But I don't want to rub too hard because I don't want to pull any ink off. I know Bonnie's mad I messed it up. Look. Look, I can wipe it off. How about that? I can rub a little bit harder and it will come off because it's going to resist it. But if I rub with the baby wipe, it's going to take it all off. And it'll pull up ink. See where I did it right here? You have to know how things are going to work because this is a really juicy baby wipe. If I had one that was not as wet, okay, that was a fail. Welcome to live crafting. That one was a fail. Didn't like that color. Tried to get it off of, wipe it off of the thing, and then it kind of, it left a little bit of a sheen, but that ruined the pretty background. I wouldn't say it ruined it, you know, it just wasn't what I wanted, right? But it's okay. I thought the background was prettier. I need a pretty blue. This was more, this had a little bit more gray to it than I expected. This is why you got to swatch everything, right? Look. This is why we need to create swatches, and I have not swatched these or else I would have known that. Look, that is not the peacock feathers I was expecting, is it? Let's look at regular peacock feathers. This is why you swatch. Lesson learned. Amateur hour, right? Where am I? Oh, I didn't pull peacock feathers. It's okay. But it doesn't look like that normally. Okay, so you have to know how everything's going to look. I know. That was my favorite before. It's okay. I'm not mad. So let's talk about these. So that was just the opaque matte paste. Takes on the color, right? Let's move this. We'll do a quick review and then we're done. Been on here forever. Okay. Opaque matte. Took on the color. Lots of dimension. Flexible, right? Spray stains. This one. Crackle paste, opaque. And then we sprayed it with the Distress Spritz. And that one was a win. I mean, seriously. Crackle paste, opaque. It resisted. It stayed white. But, you know, the color went in between the cracks. That one's pretty. Crackle paste translucent. Not my favorite at all. Just not a fan really of that one personally. And it's flat, not a lot of dimension, right? And it's translucent, but it went in the cracks. Okay. And then we did this one that then I ruined. Yes, I admit it. And it's okay because it's just paper and I can do it again. This is the Texture Paste Transparent Gloss. Remember, it dries with not as much body. The corners kind of round a little bit and it will resist the ink. So it's nice because it's white underneath and we could have had a different color. And then you put more colors, things like that. And then this one is my favorite, Grit Paste Translucent. We did the sprays, the oxide, and I did not spray anything else on it. I tried to splatter it. Now remember, I could show you one more thing again, but I'm not going to. Maybe next week we'll do some more with these before we move on. Inking with your ink pads adds it takes it to a whole other level and brightens it up. And take it, you really need to. Don't just leave, you could leave it like this, but inking adds another dimension. We're adding the steps and bougieing it up, right? So These are ones that we did today. Fun, fun, fun with pastes. And then these are the ones we did last week, week 1, right? So we went pretty basic and we've taken it to the next level with pastes, right? Okay, everybody good? Did you learn something? I shared a lot of information. So if you have any questions, make sure you let me know. And I'll see you next week, I think. Let's see. Yep, I think next week I'll be home. Nothing to worry about. And we'll be live and we're going to continue this series. And eventually we're going to work through some things. Then, even, we might even have to stop and just make some cards and move on and then come back to this series again. Because everybody's going to get a little sick of it. So don't forget the supplies list. I'm going right now to actually fix the titles because this drives me nuts that Restream is not doing that for me. And I'll put the supplies list and you guys can find all those cool stencils and all the paste and the different kinds and where you can find it. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to go register for the Nashville Craft Retreat because we have just a few seats left. Good job, Laura Stahl. She registered earlier today because she didn't think she'd be able to come and she couldn't stand it any longer. And I'm so excited that she hurried up and she got registered. Okay. Get your friends, get them to register. A few seats left. If I get the few more people, then I get to do everything I want to do. If I don't, then it's still going to be fantastic, but it's not, I don't, like there's something I want to do that I can't do if I don't get a few more people. Okay. Oh, and by the way, things are starting to roll in. I've been ordering. I'm talking to super sponsors. I have things just rolling in. So it's exciting. It'll be here before you know it. I will see you all next week. Thanks so much for joining me. And let me know if you have any questions. Leave me a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe and to hit notifications to be notified every week when I have a new video or when I go live. But I really want to get these watch times up. It's my goal. It's my goal. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you later. Bye-bye now.